Welcome back to While the Leaves Wither Away. We're starting chapter 20 today. In the last episode, a lot of things came to a head, you could say. We found out more book backstory, as well as backstory on Elizabeth, his mother, and Giovanni showed up and caused a little bit of mayhem, a little bit of trouble, but everyone managed to escape, and finally we have a rekindling of Nate and Buck's relationship. And before we get into it, I'd like to say once again that I highly recommend you go and check out the author Hazel's new merch store, new Yokai Watch merch store, in the comments below. And without further ado, let's get into it. So, chapter 20, Calla. Summary. The legend behind the Calla Lily is that a man's love was rejected because he could not provide his beloved with wealth or status. To prove his devotion, he held out a single Calla Lily, the best he could afford. I've got no idea how much a Calla Lily costs, how common they are. Quite frankly, I've never heard of them. But, I mean, flowers are nice, aren't they? You know. Nate's scrutiny was split, barely letting his eyes linger on the house for too long before returning to Buck again, who trembled and heaved and felt 10 times more heavy even when Nate was there to lift him up. The letter was tossed to the ground before Buck could dampen it further, tears spilling out and landing anywhere they saw best fit, uncontrollable. He felt paralyzed. He didn't know how to feel. Those lines, written so carefully and slow, each one digging in deeper than the last until he had no more flesh to tickle, and stabbed straight through his heart. So we're referring here to a letter read in the last chapter by his mother Elizabeth. He's showing Nate this letter. Has he read this letter before? I assume so. He probably left it there and, comes back to it at times. But that letter would explain why he can't bring himself to hate his mother. Minutes were wasted away, Nate's panic rising, and there was only so much he could take. Come on, he whispered, helping Buck find his footing. Let's get you home. He didn't dare speak. Noise a clear detriment. They were already risking it all by returning, crawling through a minefield, every step putting them in peril. No one will know they were here. No one can ever know. Their sole company peered over, staring directly at Buck like a taunt. The lone imprisoned deer, who drew no attention from Nate, only ridicule in the other's mind. He didn't want to give it what it wanted, whatever that was, yokai or not, or a god that Giovanni deluded himself into believing. It did him no good. It steered him away from that house, and if things went another way, maybe his mother could have been saved. He had to keep going. If not for himself, then for her. Nate's poor mother must have been frightened to death. It weighed on his mind in a terrible thought as they soon returned to the main forest trail, turning west to head back to the bridge in the rock they last saw her. He wasn't so sure they'd get away with it this time. Everything served to torment Buck's anguish and the brittle trust the twins shared with their parents, breaking apart more and more each day. It wasn't like it'd be too difficult to mend. Another house arrest and extra chores were nothing he couldn't handle. It was up the guilt from tearing them apart as well. A voice was soon heard. Buck initially reached his arm out in front of Nate so he'd stop, still staying vigilant even with his foggy brain. They were left like that for a few seconds before shortly continuing their journey, only a lot slower, shuffling past the trees. They took cover behind one, sound of Nate's mother rambling clear as day. Nate peeked out to spot her on the phone. I mean, what can we do, really? She sighed, folding one leg over the other as she picked at the fabric of her cardigan, her other hand holding the device firmly by ear. I don't... Well, be honest with me, love. Do you want to stay here? Harvey was on the other end, hunched forward on the living room couch while he waited for his coffee to brew, his foot bouncing rapidly with every potential answer that traced his mind. Nadia, you don't have to answer now. I'm just thinking. Her head started to droop, lying on her palm to cover the ever-growing frustration in misty eyes. It's awful. Gods, it's terrible. And I'm just so scared for the kids. The three of them. Fuck's sake. I thought this was all over. He winced at her curse, his jaw quivering for a moment before he could get the words out. I mean, it's not like we'd be outliers if we did leave. He started, readjusting his posture to not look so slouched. The old house still isn't sold. I could maybe take it off the market and... You do that? The light practically returned to her eyes, raising her face from her hand. But, wait, no, your job. You're hardly settled in, Harvey. Yeah, but if the kids are in danger, then that doesn't matter. Okay? He waited for a response that didn't arrive, softening his voice to reassure her further. It doesn't matter, sweetheart. You and the children are my top priority. Always have been. And if we still need to pack our bags and move back to Springdale, then so be it. It's for the best. I know it. Me too, she whispered, an annoyed smirk tracing her lips. You are so hard to say no to. Love you too. He made a kiss sound as well for good measure. We can talk more when you're home, alright? I'm mostly worried about the passport situation. Oh, shoot. Yeah, passports. The last thing she expected put to her was their only ticket to getting out of there, it seemed. Speaking of which, she spotted the boys carefully approaching, giving them a stern glare at their tardiness. Another sigh escaped. Okay, we'll be home soon. The call ended and Harvey waited for the silence to settle, following out a sigh of his own, waiting a moment before forcing himself off the sofa. His walk was short-lived, forced to a stop once he saw Noelle standing in the doorway, brows furrowed and pupils slightly shrunken. We're moving again? Nosy. He couldn't sugarcoat it, his gaze lowering to the floor and that realization in him. We might, he murmured, and his head came up again as he tried returning eye contact, hoping it made him look more convincing. But it'll be good for us, okay? And Buck can come with us while we got his passport sorted. When she eventually nodded, he gave her one of his own and kept going to fetch his coffee. She's already getting cold. Does that mean you'll have less hours? The next question made him freeze again, his fingertips barely grabbing a hold of the mug. It wasn't a well-kept secret that the current state of his work hours were abhorrent to any self-respecting human being, labouring him to death. Today he called in sick, the least he could do to be there for the kids, and it was a miracle his boss didn't chew his ear off too much. Well, that's American workers' rights for you. I'd hope so, was his uneasy response, and before his lips could make contact with the mug, he felt a tug on his sleeve. Confusion overrode the tension as Noelle dragged him back to the living room. What are you doing? Sick people are supposed to rest. Nosy. I'm not actually. I know, but everyone else thinks you are. But by everyone else, she only meant his boss and co-workers, hardly holding a speck of remorse for how swamped they must be without him. Dad was smart, impressively so, but unfortunately that intelligence never carried over to his self-respect. Noelle was convinced he had more litres of coffee in him than hours of sleep. The mug was forcefully taken and set down on the end table for now, Noelle returning her focus to her father, who had already lowered himself back onto the sofa, rather reluctantly as well. She huffed, hands on her hips as if she were the parent here. There, now go to sleep like you're supposed to. Very demanding, aren't you? There was a lack of bite in his tone. He wondered how long he could stay sitting upright to wind her up, finally laying down as his daughter's glare quickly solidified itself. While the sofa wasn't nearly as comfy as his own bed, and with the fact that he had to curl up rather tightly to ensure his feet didn't dangle over the armrest, he knew it would be a struggle should he try to hoist himself upstairs. The coffee getting confiscated also didn't work in his favour. He beckoned her closer. Come here, sweetie. She wanted to crouch down anyway, reaching for the folded blanket tucked under the table, holding it up to let it hang limply before draping it over him. Yeah? She quietly asked, leaning forward a little. And once close enough, his hand came up to her head, fingers threading through the silky blue hair. Don't you start worrying about me now. Your mother already does enough of that. I'm not worrying, she insisted. We should start listening to her. You really should. Might make you less stubborn. Hey, I do listen. About work, stupid. He'd never rebuttal for that. His fingers momentarily paused, soon starting up again to cup her face instead. We can focus on that after the move. I promise I'll work less. No more than 60 hours a week. Maybe 50. 40! I don't think they're gonna let me do 40. He chuckled, the sound dying out a lot faster than he'd hoped. But it can be less, I can tell you that now. They like me, the guys in Springdale. Noel raised one of her brows. Do they not like you here? No, I'm not saying that. I'm still new. And, well, I guess I'm not used to someone with the traditional BBQian accent. But let's give an exaggerated example interrupted by a yawn. Oh, cripes. She huffed, yanking his glasses off to leave them on the table, trying to keep it gentle to avoid breaking them. Dad! I know. Sleeping now. It was almost amusing how useless he could be without the coffee, like a robot with his battery taken out. Noel gently lowered her father's hand to his side, but she felt it slipping away. Half of her glad he could finally give up and rest, at least for a small while. The other half was slowly picking her apart. He looked terrible, really. Like he hadn't slept for days, and she knew the part of that wasn't just the hospital, but also the stress of having to look after her. She was grown up to be semi-independent, but with her chasing after a certain evil, putting everything at risk, it was no different to worrying over a hyperactive toddler. Leaning down further, she kept going until her chin touched down the couch, rolling her head over to have her cheek rest instead, facing him directly. I'm not going anywhere, she murmured. And even with him half asleep at this point, she was happy to see his lips crinkling into a slight smile, lined against his wrinkles. I'm staying here. Just rest now. She can't keep that promise for long. Not without awaiting misery should she choose to follow orders. Certainly not now, but he'd eventually forgive her for the plan already formulating in her head. One step, but moving. I know. I was there. Noelle interrupted, her knuckles pressing into her forehead as her mouth drew out a long sigh. Damn it! Should have seen it coming. The trio sat on the large carpet in the middle of Noelle's room, the door firmly closed to ensure no outsiders caught wind of their gossip. It wasn't known how long they had, how quickly their mother could snag the plane tickets, which already seemed to be quite the craze as of late. It wasn't just them wanting to get out. Everyone did. Ironically, it was a benefit, and the situation with booking the passports gave them heaps of time. More than enough, surely, should they act fast. We need to get rid of him tonight, Noel continued to propose, widening the eyes of both boys who shared a glance. You mean... They cleared his throat. You mean we kill him? I don't know. I'm thinking, she snapped louder than intended, instantly shrinking back, hiding her face in her hands. They soon came up to rake through her hair, adding to the prior mess, as if that had helped with the brainstorming. It only frustrated her more. We need research, she suggested. That's what people do, right? They research before jumping in, because otherwise it all goes to shit. We had a plan. And a solid one, not just charging straight at him and winding up with something worse than a bruised neck. We can sneak. Buck's idea floated around for a bit, startling Nate a little. Huh? He has the blaster, Nate, remember? Just, gotta sneak in, steal it back. Turn up the dial to a gazillion, and off he goes. Yeah, and then what'll happen to you? The girl nearly scoffed, holding off just this once. You're saying to power to the max, and then what? Once it's fired, you're gonna poof. She made an motion with her hands, flicking them to the sides in the shape of an explosion. He would be the only one that blows up. Buck only had eyes for the floor. I'll stand back. Buck, no. Nate wouldn't have it. Not a chance. Come on. There has to be a better way. What about... Took a sharp breath. Immediately turned to his sister. What about the yokai world? It still exists, right? We could send them there. Maybe. Can't do a thing without a gateway. So how do we open one? Noel blinked. I don't know, but... Momentarily she tapped her knees while thinking, soon rising to jump across the room and investigate the outside world beyond the window. North Beach was a stone's throw away, and it got the cogs in her head turning. Like I said, research. Surely there's a website or something that can help. Perking up, Nate also started to look a little more hopeful. Well, books? I did see a bookstore by the marketplace. Books? Noel frowned. I thought they didn't believe in yokai here. So check the international section. I had to head to North Beach anyway. That's an interesting little lore there, because that implies that yokai are widely believed in, to some extent at least, in the UK, whereas in BBQ, America, they don't believe in that. So that means that Giovanni's belief in it, he sort of tried to tie it in with a god or the gods. So we're having all kinds of different religious conflicts here. He soon felt both pairs of eyes glued on him, darting his blank gaze up from his fidgeting fingers. It's a surprise. Buck could tell Nate was taking extra care for not to make eye contact, and, though reluctant about the whole idea, venturing out into the busiest part of town, easiest to get recognized for previous crimes, he still nodded. Fine, but we gotta be quick. North Beach was uncharacteristically quiet for a Friday afternoon. All the usual hustle and bustle climbing towards the city hall instead, leaving the marketplace nearly desolate, the general public preferring to channel their rage to protests, rather than seeking out healthier coping methods. None of the humans could be blamed for it. To them, there was another clue, all suddenly hearing of murder and misery fast approaching the town and preparing to strike at any moment. Many wondered if they even had long left. But in that moment, Buck only saw the good, allowing himself to breathe a sigh of relief that could actually be heard in the stillness of the street. He could hear his own thoughts here, rather than have to worry about them screaming, urging him to grab the nearest pack of fruit and plan the fastest exit. He just hoped no one would recognize him. Though it had been a while, he might be in the clear. So I'm pretty sure it's that way. Referring to the bookstore, Nate pointed out the street he recognized for previous trips, window shopping a few times but never daring himself to go in. The whole store would be sold out. Now was the hard part, his next request. Can we split up? He timidly asked, turning around to face the two with an equally sheepish smile. You two can grab that book. Hell no! They shouted in unison, racing to see who could glare at each other the quickest, the result needing to be narrowed down to milliseconds. Buck tried shouting out again, caught off by Noel's quick thinking. I mean, shouldn't this just be a job just for the yokai? And wouldn't you rather be together anyway? Buck agrees, don't you, Buck? She hissed and jumped him with her elbow, giving off a sort of grumble as he barely flinched. Darn tootin', he piped up. Nate, No. I told you, it's a surprise. He was trying his hardest to keep it as much of a secret as possible, holding back the urge to cave that only grew larger the more the two shot uneasy, confused stares. Nate bit his lip. Please, Buck. He dragged the other boy to the side, whispering to his ear. You need to talk it out, because I swear to God I'm about to spend the entire plane while listening to your bickering. They both glanced back at Noelle, who made it a bit too obvious she was pretending not to overhear, with crossed arms and a failed attempt at whistling. Fine, just don't take too long, okay? I won't, Nick grinned. I promise. He was happy to see Buck shot smiling back. Short-lived, as Noelle was already beginning to walk away in pursuit of the bookstore, and Nick gave a small wave as Buck rushed off after her. Pulling his headphones over his ears, he turned to the marketplace. Thank the gods for the protests. Maybe it'd actually be bearable today. As for the other two, neither bothered to converse. They reached the bookstore in minimal time, and as such treated it like a library in which they were silent. Noel headed straight for the international section, just like Nate suggested, and searched the countless tourist guides and cookbooks to find even a smidge of what could be related to yokai. It wasn't even that long ago that such creatures were invading. Her parents still frequently told stories of it, as if it were yesterday, and they always sounded so grateful the twins had narrowly dodged that period in time. Was BBQ affected, she wondered, or were they just unlucky enough to live in Springdale, an apparent hotspot for disaster? Squinting her eyes, she turned her head away from the bookshelf, and she had to huff. Seriously? Do what? Hi. Buck spun around as soon as he heard her, acting like he wasn't ogling at the rows of comics lined among the shelves, the selection almost overwhelming. Yeah, you found something? No, but I really appreciate the help. And just as she said that, a potential leader practically called out to her from the bottom of the section. Turns out it was sorted in alphabetical order. Aha! Yokai! Buck nearly rammed into her, leaning in to also peer into the book she tore open, the contents overflowing with knowledge, gold in their eyes. While it started off with a brief description of the tragedies and the yokai to blame for them, Noah skipped a few chapters to look more into the descriptions of their respective world. Damn, it's just based on rumors. Better than nothing, Buck shrugged. What's it say? You kids buying that or what? Glaring at the man impatiently waiting by the cash register, Noah snapped the book shut and grumbled under her breath. All right. Yeesh. So the plan's still the same, right? She lowered her tone to ensure only book heard. About banishing him? Because a bit more skimming in this, and that might be worth a shot. She didn't like how he looked so skeptical. Oh, great. What now? I want him dead. Buck spat. His nails would have dug into his palms until they bled if it wasn't for them being so brittle. Per amor de Dio, he's supposed to be dead now. Shh. Thankfully, the owner wasn't too keen on snooping into their conversation. Yet Noah still dragged Buck to a darker, quieter corner of the store. I know you do, but look at him. You really expect to win a fight against that? He's like, what, 6'5"? He rolled his eyes, letting a scoff for good measure. I already told you, I'll shoot him with the blaster. Which you don't have, she emphasized, smacking her hand with the other for every harsh word. How big is your death wish exactly? I'm not putting Nate through that. Right, Nate. Of course, he almost laughed, scratching the back of his neck, nodding to himself as he stared up the ceiling. So I'll croak, and while my body's rotten, you're going to be crying over Nate's little bruises instead. That's what you're telling me? Brooke towered over her, and even when she wasn't too phased, Noah had to take a moment before declaring her answer. Well, you make it very hard to care about you at all, she muttered. So I find it hard to believe you're any different from how you were last night. That shut him up real fast. Both of them, in fact. Noah returned to the book without a second thought, not even bothering to look up when she heard Buck storm out. The small bell by the door gently dinging. Now outside, it was easier to keep a cool head. His main outlet being the stumps he left as he walked, almost able to leave footprints even in the hardest concrete. He knew what needed to be done, which had been fortified years ago, which had been a solid conclusion, and it drove him insane that no one seemed to follow along. Well, for now, it was just Noel. He'd get to Nate's opinion sooner or later. It wasn't something he wanted to burden him with. Like they could pretend to brush it all off to the side, never to be worried about again. That was obviously preferable, yet impossible, and he bit the inside of his cheek at the thought. As a distraction, he thought about the idea of Springdale that he walked. Maps he found usually only displayed St. Petersburg and the surrounding areas, the furthest being the other side of the country. Never international. He hardly had a clue what was out there, and it left his head spinning, wondering if it was something worth looking forward to. Though he did read in books about where Nate was from, it was apparently rich in nature, and even went as far as to hold castles. Maybe a little exaggerated, seeing how the Adams looked nothing like royalty nor peasants, but he was glad he was granted the opportunity to find out. I mean, yeah, we do have a fair few castles. You know, if you want to go to a castle in this country, I mean, there's usually not one too far away from where you are. Especially in Wales, and I live right by North Wales, so that's perfect. Anyway, it was better than here, he reminded himself. Distant shores where Giovanni couldn't possibly seize him. He wanted to taste it as if it'd surely be the sweetest taste he ever conceived. Of course, that fact would only be solidified from the confirmation of his second death. Buck wanted to see the light leave his eyes himself. But amidst his dreams, swiftly dragged back down to reality, he caught up at the marketplace and spotted that familiar brunette, instantly unfireable with the hair spikes Buck swore would prick his finger. He was about to call out to him, interrupted by the other's quiet hum. Mama, those look just swell on you. The store clerk was brimming with enthusiasm, still smiling brightly despite the boy's own sheepish grin. They're not for me, he insisted, the sunglasses perched down just above his eyebrows, which furrowed as he inspected a nearby table mirror. Yeah, I'll take these. Alrighty, let me just sort out the numbers. Now the clerk was just mumbling to herself, taking the sunglasses to the register and tapping away at the numerous buttons, Nate panicking for a split second as he thought every hit was another digit to the total cost. In the end, it wouldn't hit savings too harshly. Buck was worried either way. Too far to hear the rest of the short conversation, he still stood shocked, watching as Nate was still oblivious as he carried his new purchase away. So much so that he missed him entirely, Buck finally calling out, Nate? Whoa! His hands flew straight to his back, then his whole body once he realized Buck was standing behind him. He looked as if he'd just been caught stealing cookies out the jar or something. Buck couldn't help chuckling at the sight. So, what's that you got there? What's what? Nate blinked. I have nothing at all. Nate, Stepping forward, Buck's sly smile stayed for a few moments until the situation gradually settled in his mind, weighing his lips down. Then he still refused to show his hands, refusing him frown more, which was shocked back, and the two continued that dance until their faces couldn't physically hold it anymore. Did he started the question without a clue how to finish it? Are those a present? He finally admitted, a sigh slipping out as he returned the gift to full view. Glasses! Sunglasses! Since I felt bad about before, your old one's been broken and all. It was your birthday yesterday, so as if begging Buck to take them, Nate held the glasses out further. Buck had absolutely zero idea of what to say. All possible thoughts of words exploding into millions of unreadable atoms. It took him an embarrassingly long time to even comprehend what was happening. But each further push of Nate's hands with the gift sent out a signal to him, only reaching after a couple of tries. Already the sunglasses looked and felt a lot sleeker in his hands. They contradicted his calloused skin, edges smooth and in pristine condition, and the hinges didn't feel like they were about to snap off any second, which was a pleasant change. He was surprised the old pair had lasted as long as they did. Fished up from the river to the west of North Beach last summer, but these ones, he could see them surviving for years. And they were all his, as Nate said. Buck wanted to cry. See? Nate grinned as the other boy tested them out, staring into the store's mirror to see for himself. They look good on you. You look good. And immediately Nate wanted to kick himself. Was he pestering too much? Was that too much? Buck was still in so much shock he barely took in those words. I need to get you something too. No, that's what birthdays are for. Whoever's birthday it is, you get them a present, he explained, his brows slowly starting to lean down. If you don't like them, then I have to receive. No, I'm keeping them. I'm keeping them for hopefully a damn long time. Buck's sudden declaration caught Nate off guard, the redhead swiveling round to stare and cement his point. Thank you kindly. Seriously, sorry, I don't rightly know what to say, is all. Oh. Nate was more than a little surprised. Initially, he thought Buck might chew his ear off for going through the effort of getting him something, so I didn't see that usual scowl and canine teeth and hear that panicking denial, which could go on forever if he didn't need to breathe. But no. He actually looked pleased, which should be the bare minimum, but nothing else piled on top of him. Another reason to feel guilty would only make it worse. So Nate smiled back. His hopes answered the little gift, seeming to make Buck feel better already. You're welcome. Maybe a bit too cloudy for sunglasses in November, but they look good on you. I mean it. It's weird not seeing you with them on your head. Buck blinked as he had the sentence halted, a faint blue hue barely visible in his retinas, guiding him to also stare down at the source. Oh, what the Shediamani? I don't even know what that means. Gleaming near Buck's chest, the two boys stared in both a mix of awe and horror as the UFO stone glowed, unsure what to make of the situation. It stayed like that for a few more seconds before dying once more, returning to its usual heavy, dull state, and they both raised their heads in unison as if to ask, what the hell was that about? You saw that too, right? Yeah. Kind of hard to ignore. Nate was still gawking, only closing his mouth when he worked up the ability to think coherent thoughts again. It glowed like that before, too. It did? A while ago, he exclaimed. Like way back, one of the first nights Nosy and I were here. He went on to say, suddenly whirling his head around in a circle. Oh, where is Noelle? I told you to stick together. Yeah, well, she's a damn nitwit, and I escaped before she can spread any of her nitwit germs. You gotta glare for that, returning it with a shrug. She ain't too fond of me, Nate. You know it, and I know it. Well, you better get used to it if you're planning on coming back to Springdale with us. Nate shot back, sounding a little desperate. Buck caught on. Please. After all this is over, I don't want any more arguments. Buck loosened his shoulders a bit. And we can start fresh, Nate continued. Fresh and happy. I want you to be happy. Something about that sent a little wasp into Buck's insides to sting him in the heart. And in this case, he must have been allergic too. Fine. After this is done, because I'm sorry, but I can't exactly be the happiest about anything right now. No, I get that. Nate reassured, and I got a little nod. I get it. Buck looked pensive. So he was rethinking his words, proving as he went in to give a light punch to Nate's arm. Except one thing. I don't hate you if that's what you're thinking. He held out a toothy grin to which Nate laughed. Wasn't thinking that. Good, 'cause I catch you looking so miserable in front of me again. Oh, for God's sake. Once again, the UFO stone shined brilliantly. Jabbing at Buck's attempt to taunt it, which threatened to yank the whole necklace clean off and toss it into the North Beach Sea. Seriously, what's up with this thing? Not sure. They got closer to inspect it, taking the stone from Soph for a closer look. It felt strangely warm. Weird. That was at the bottom of their priorities now. Glancing up, Nate spotted an approaching Noelle, offering a smile that she forced back, as if to get it over with. She held a book in her hand, the cover sporting a fantasy-esque appearance, and I could only hope the contents were as close to reality as it could get. Simply put, gateways can open if enough yokai wish for it. They'd barely been home for 5 minutes, and already Noelle was setting up her room like a conference meeting. Cardboard boxes flipped and placed upside down as makeshift tables. 6 pieces of paper taped together to make one big brainstorming sheet. The scratchy sound of her markers filling the room as she glided them across, drawing out her prediction of what's to come. Allegedly. It's like a safety measure or something, in case a lot of them get locked out. So, for Giovanni's sake, she carried on explaining, doodling a quick stick figure with an emphasizing face, he'll be him in this cult. I just gotta convince him he'll be better off in the yokai world than here. That's simpler than I thought, Nate bluntly threw out, went forward to take a better look at the symbol diagram Noelle had conjured up. But to convince him? How? He's... Hesitantly, he only had eyes for Buck. It's Buck he wants. But what do you mean you convince him? I mean I do it myself, and that way neither of you get hurt. Well, do you want him gone or not? She snapped, nearly bending the pen in her hand with so much force it split. Let me handle it, okay? I know what to do now with range attacks and whatnot. I don't freeze up or anything. It needs to just be me and him. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it's got to be. Neither Nate nor Buck knew what to say. In Nate's case, his mind immediately filled with a brim of paranoia and startling scenarios, like a fortune teller predicting certain doom. Meanwhile, Buck still stood by his principles. You're better off just killing him. Are you offering to do the final blow? That shut him up real fast. Why does he have to be our problem anyway? She continued. Yokai are swarming their own world, obviously. One's far more powerful than me. Her gaze tilted down. So they can deal with him just fine. I don't even like fighting. I know you don't. Quickly, Nate placed his hand over her own, hoping the warmth she could barely feel might still somehow provide a sliver of reassurance. I'm not asking you to send him off either, if you don't want to. It's fine. There's other ways. Like what? She watched as Nate's lips pressed together, and answered unable to form, and sighed. I'll trick his goons into falling for it or something. They make their wish, the gateway opens, then all I'm going to do is push Giovanni in, and the rest of the yokai will follow, like moths to a flame. What's going on here? All 3 of the children's heads snapped to the door, having been subtly opened by a short second prior. The twins' father stood, naturally worried, eyebrows hanging low once he processed the planning sheet he surrounded. Dad! Noel was first to plunge, forcing grins she could only hope to the gods like somewhat possible. But just, it's nothing really. Planning out something for a game. A game? They could all tell from his tone that he wasn't convinced. None in the slightest. Next thing they knew, the paper was snatched, swiftly rolled up and crumpled to their heads straight for the bin. Hey, wait! Well, no. He stood startlingly firm, knocking out all the squeaks and premature protests they dared to try. It's already been decided, okay? You're not getting anywhere near that monster ever again. Harvey wasn't used to enforcing a harsher tone, his stern like already crumbling. Yet he rebuilt it, or at least attempted to, voice cracking all the while. To make myself clear. A verbal response never came, but the physical guilt tracing everyone's faces was enough. He simply forced out a shaky sigh, leaving just as soon as he arrived, giving the sheet an extra merciless crunch. He was terrified, just as much as they were. They couldn't blame him for that. Wait, Dad! Springing to his feet to chase after him, his heavy grasp was been loud in his footsteps, enough to urge his father to turn around. And that alone got him to turn back, crouching down to tend to his quivering son, eyeing the two, spying in his peripheral vision. I'm sorry, sweetie, but it's for our own good, I know. Nate finished the reminder for him, noting that even the smallest sense of control of the panic flowing through his blood. There's a prison in this house, the parents the wardens, and while Nate usually meant well, he couldn't possibly get over that feeling of being trapped. Whisking him off to Springdale was only stalling a certain death, but the adults would never let it go any other way, no matter how hard he tried to convince them. I'm sorry, the boy hiccuped. I'm scared. There's no other way. He's gonna. Hey, shh. They lightly bounced onto the floorboards as Harvey prioritized his son's well-being, hushing into his hair in their gentle embrace, doing his all to calm him down. Shh, you're okay. You're okay. You're being silly. I'm not. Nate still persisted. I need to stop him. No, you need to leave that to the adults, okay? Certainly not him. The man was a twig, but there were surely others who'd do more than stand back and watch. Others far more capable and far less reckless than 3 children. The law and everyone else responsible for keeping us safe will surely do everything they can. Just take a deep breath for me, honey. Deep down, they didn't buy it. Not for 1 second. The law? As if they could even comprehend what was happening in their so-called precious and beloved town. What threat was before them, staring them right in the face? No wonder if it left any areas uncovered. Explaining it all as soon as she had her energy back. Nate wasn't ignorant. Everyone else was. He couldn't back down now, as much as he wanted to. So she begged to escape, to fly off to Springdale and turn a blind eye, acting like everything was okay. The idea made him nauseous. His stomach had been churning for days. His parents didn't seem to know that, though. He could feign resigning, earn their trust back, and convince Nolan Buck to follow along. As soon as all seems well again, before it's too late, they might stand a chance. So he fell into silence, steadying his breath as instructed, feeling the soft, familiar caress of his father's frail hand in his ear. In his hair, not his ear. Something that brought nostalgia, a comforting one. As even back when things went any less bleak. Tomorrow wouldn't be so grim. It won't exist, should they give up. That prospect stabbed by its determined glare. They'll make a better tomorrow. He had no choice but to count on that. The words on the page seemed to blend together as Nadia's focus could hardly control itself. Soon it'd be 11 p.m. Her own personal bedtime and the last hour of her day was more often than not spent curled up in bed with a good book, freeing a hand every so often to jab Harvey's side for snoring. He'd always be asleep first, initially insisting that he wanted to read as well. His head collapsed onto her chest, and they'd hardly get past 2 pages before he was completely out. Nadia didn't have the heart to shove him off. She didn't mind reading on her own, seeing as how she usually did at a faster pace than her husband, waiting with as much patience as she could muster for him to be ready to move on, as his attempt at distracting her failed miserably. She was still worried to death, barely able to comprehend a single sentence without her mind drifting off to the children. Hopefully asleep, guaranteed to be safe, but simple hopes weren't enough. Pin drop was all it took for her anxiety to overload. Slamming the book shut as she quickly gave up, she tossed it onto the nightstand and winced as it slid, hearing it fall to the floor and feeling her husband's subsequent twitch. Shh, it's nothing, she whispered, while still unsure if he could hear her, but he at least smiled once the peck to his forehead slowly processed in his dazed mind. It wasn't favoured by her to leave him be, even if it were for a few short minutes to check up on the children. But now she felt as if she didn't have a choice. Effortlessly untangling herself from his weak grasp, taking his hand into her hands to carefully guide it down to the pillow instead, she threw her legs into the floorboards and began her quiet move. Not a single speck of light illuminated from anywhere in the house, apart from the faint table lamp on Nadia's side of the bed, one that Harvey subconsciously rolled himself over to avoid. Silent as could be, the woman clicked her tongue. Nate's closed door stood directly in front of hers, being the logical choice for her first stop. That was until, like bait, a bright glow emitted from the crack under the bathroom door, and Nadia took it. She gave a gentle knock first, assuming Clover was inside was frozen up given the silence, and she was starting to think she caught them in the act. And the culprit wasn't going to open the door clearly, so she took the plunge. Lucy? Hey. Her daughter smiled back rather sheepishly, laced with a sleepy tone that neither could deny. She was clutching her dressing gown over herself tightly, hands and face slightly soaked from tap water, as she hadn't got the time to dry them yet before being interrupted. Sorry, just can't sleep. Aw, how come? Despite her suspicion, Nelly decided to believe her for now. Her dressing gown in particular was a cause for concern. Hesitantly, she reached over to rub her daughter's covered shoulder, listening to her hushed reply of not sure. and giving a simple harmless response. Temperature didn't affect Noelle, at least not when it was cold, so the need for a dressing gown was a bit odd, but her mother gave her the benefit of the doubt and assumed she just wanted to feel more cozy. Do you want to stay with me and Dad again? Is that it? She asked gently. She hardly expected herself to ask that so often now, given they're the twins were toddlers anymore, but it's not like she minded. She also assumed they grew out of it, despite the grey area in Noelle's case. Luckily, she already complained about her father snoring. It made her feelings a lot clearer. No, Dad snores, she repeated, a little embarrassed by her mother's little laugh that followed. I'm fine, really. Well, naturally. Hmm? Nadia blinked, tilting her head to the side. Can we talk about it tomorrow? Or what I'm suggests. Tomorrow morning or something. Too tired now. That might chip away a little weight from her mother's shoulders. Of course, dear, she replied. You better get back to bed before you end up sleeping on the bathroom floor. I know. Rolling her eyes, she gave as much of a grin as a tired steak could muster, squeezing past the one with a subtle night night. Nadia wasn't entirely satisfied with the ending there. Noelle? The girl's legs twitched to a halt. Yeah? Looking back, she appeared slightly confused as Miller walked up to her once more, who specifically stared down at the hands holding the dressing gown. Noelle, are you... Mother said, trailing off, she deemed it best to find out the answer herself, prying her hands away. All she could do was gasp, staring down the hoodie underneath. Noelle... I'm sorry, Erotta mumbled, sending ice to the floor. What? Something cold pressed down Nadia's feet, her eyes immediately darting to find the source chaining her to the ground. Well, what's... I need to do this, okay? She cried out, guilt eating her alive and laced over each and every single word. The boys were waiting downstairs, remorse clinging to Nate just as much, Buck holding his hand to ensure he didn't rush upstairs to stop it. I need to get rid of him, of Giovanni. Else you're gonna die and Dad's gonna die. And I don't want that. Nosy, sweetie, you don't... Footsteps pattered from the master bedroom, Noelle quickly shooting more ice to freeze the handle. Hey, Nadia, you there? What's going on? Noelle interrupted her mother before she could respond. With it, she attempted her best smile that constantly threatened to break. We'll be back soon, okay? Noelle! Her mother called out once more as she watched helplessly. The children were hurrying out of the house without chance of argument or reconsideration, the tough ice keeping her legs frozen in place only added to the panic. Thoughts swirled of them all running off to certain doom, Nadia hitting her own head in terror and dread. Fuck! They bolted for the woods without turning back. Buck was by far the fastest of the three. It wasn't comparable in the slightest, yet he stayed close behind to accompany Nate with a lot less faith in his legs. In the end, Noelle ended up taking the lead, running away from her own regret. Her breath was already heaving, and the heavy stamina usage only made it worse. They barely crossed the red suspension bridge connecting East Pine and the forest before a stitch spiked up, her insides feeling all the more claustrophobic. Running that far wasn't necessary. The road leading up Hazeltine House was well behind them now, but a safe spot for the boys was desperately needed. And heading south, down to the old base, would be the most obvious choice in the world, leaving them vulnerable even if Giovanni's other eyes suddenly blinded as well. So they proceeded north instead, straight into the mouth of Gloombell Forest. Camp out here until I give the signal. Noelle managed to get out as her words out as her palms clutched onto her knees. Bending over, she allowed air to flow into her lungs again. Nate and Buck had the easy job, keep a lookout for trouble. Who knows what could jump in out in the dark in the woods in the middle of the night. And it's a fair distance from the house, mainly for Buck's peace of mind. His advantage being that Noelle was still stuck on her own should things take a turn for the worse. That alone was sending Nate's fear into overdrive. Shouldn't we be a little closer? No! No, I need to do this! She shut him down instantly, quickly nibbling on the scrunchie on her wrist to yank it off, messily tying up her hair. Besides, with that amount of yokai, who knows how big this gateway will be? It'll be like a sinkhole. Neither boy had an answer for that, but keeping his head down, Nate still staring in obvious worry. It won't be longer than, say, half an hour, she suggested. If that keeps you happy. Nate only gave a nod, his twin letting a subtle frown show before swiftly hiding it. Without another word, she scampered off. And as suspected, another pair of shoes quickly followed behind. She huffed and immediately stopped, her shoe exaggerating and stomped into the ground. Nate, The second she turned around, he pounced, arms encircling her tight as he could try. Nate, hey! She shook over the hint of doubt, her chin squished into his shoulder and her own arm soon copying his own. I said I'll be fine, didn't I? His quiet response came out muffled by her hoodie. I'll believe it when I see it. Huh? When I see it, Noelle, he cried, his head suddenly shooting up to look at Dead in her shocked, pulsating eyes. I'll believe it when you stop lying. When you come back just fine. I'm not lying. She was quick to protest, her arms loosening their grip slightly, resulting to gently clinging to his final sleeve instead. All I'm asking for you is that you trust me, okay? Can you at least do that? Standing his ground, his grip tightened while the exact words he wanted to spit out stayed locked up in his head. He was holding on so hard like he never wanted to let go. Like it'd be the last time he'd get to hold her. Noelle's heart stung at the realization. It's not like last time, she reassured him, voice softening. You really think I'd let that happen again? No, but he was slowly breaking piece by piece, her gentle tone working the opposite way in which it prodded his emotions further, to the brink of ruin. It is the same. You just don't remember. That was all me. My fault. Nate! She started to panic, guiding him over behind a thick tree instead, away from Buck's perplexed stare. Nate, listen to me. Listen, it's the exact same, he yelled in hopes he'd get through to her. With you going away and never coming back, when I could have stopped it. And Dad saying, just leave it to the police. You're going alone. You're alone fighting that guy and I might never see you again. You might... With a tight hug, his rambling slowly died out, returning to the same volume as her own sniffles. Nate, you might... The possibility was as clear as day, but he still couldn't bring himself to admit it out loud, already choked up enough by his tears. Well... It's alright. It's okay. I'm here. I'm here. She repeated those words while she thought of better, more convincing ones to say, slowly rubbing his back with the cold palm of her hand. He shivered at first, gradually getting used to it, melting in the embrace. How old were we when that happened? He swallowed meekly before responding. 4. 4. It wasn't kept a secret to her that they were young at the time, but most of her knowledge was through piecing together small fragments of vague memories the whole family was too scared to talk about. She didn't blame them, especially when it made Nate suffer for the state he was in now. So, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure I can put up a much better fight than someone who barely knows the alphabet. It was no use comparing the stakes. Both scenarios can result in death, a horrifying thought, and here Noelle was witnessing firsthand how frightened it left her brother. The smile from the last comment was gone. Lowering her head, she made eye contact, hands now holding his rosy, puffy cheeks. This is the only way to fix everything. You know that. Or else everyone dies, he mumbled. Exactly. I know you don't like it, and I'm really sorry, but I'm doing this for you. Carefully, she wiped away a few more tears that threatened to fall. Don't think for a second that I can fight while knowing you're in danger, because I can't. And we already know the wash doesn't work against him, so... Slowly, reluctantly, he was starting to hear her out, giving a subtle nod that she couldn't see too well. But she could definitely feel it against their fingers. Can I at least keep a lookout from a good distance? She shook her head. No, you need to stay here with Burke. It's him Giovanni wants. Nate's gaze began to drift away, practically spelling out the uneasiness he felt. He sighed, tapping his cheek. Hey, this is what yokai are good at, right? Fighting and stuff. It's the least I can do to keep you all safe. All of you. You and Mum and Dad and... There was an abrupt pause and a hesitant lip bite before she continued, quieter this time. And Buck. So I know the police can't do shit, and I know Dad is talking shit. He's just hoping to get us out of here before the problem gets too big. Think of it this way. It'll make him happier knowing that Giovanni's dead. Both him and Mum will be happier, and promise me you'll be fine. Noel blinked, even after all that. He only had worry for her. And unfortunately, it couldn't be simply slapped with a plaster this time. After some brief thought, she held her pinky finger out, the least she could do for him. I promise, and I love you. And there's no way you're losing me again. I swear it. It was like she could physically see him later, his smile that slowly formed looking genuine. All worry successfully pushed away for the first time. Pushed away for the time being. Love you too. Their pinkies locked together, solidifying the promise. Noel leaned in for one last squeeze before rushing off. Nate refused to tear his eyes away until she was invisible, running off somewhere beyond the trees, all the bad omens and ideas crawling right back. He quickly flicked under his eyelids, hoping he didn't look like too much of a mess for Buck, who knew very well he was staring as the brunette made the wobbly walk back to him. Buck's mouth hung agape, unsure where to start, unable to snatch any hints from Nate's blank hollow stare. The silence was unbearable. What was that about? Buck asked, unsure if Nate would even answer or not. In a way that confirmed Nate's feelings of being trapped, barely having a clue how to get out of it without making Buck feel bad. He wasn't even sure if no one would like them to talk about it. He'd grown to bottle it up. He'd learned from the way it used to upset his parents while she was still gone. But leaving Buck in the dark made him feel equally bad. You know how Noel's a yokai? The other boy nodded, prompting Nate to continue. Okay, it's kind of a long story, so I'll try and keep it short, but it happened when we were younger. He started fidgeting with the cuffs off his sleeves, unbuttoning them and letting them hang loose for a small moment before tying them up again, soon repeating the cycle to serve as a mild distraction. Like, younger. We were 4, and it's still kind of fuzzy, but I think Dad was at work like usual, and Mum took us to the park. We were playing hide and seek, and I guess I couldn't find her, so I got worried and told Mum. We went off to try and find her, but she wasn't anywhere nearby. Buck frowned. So where was she? Well, the police station was nearby, so we went there since Mum said they might have seen her. Then the next thing you know, while she's talking to them, Noel pops up behind me and tells me to come with her to the mountain. Mountain? Yeah, Mount Wildwood, he explained, the picture of it in his head being enough to make his stomach drop a little. That was the one part he remembered so vividly. The ridiculous amount of stars, the trees towering over them. Noel loved it since their father had taken them there before to feed the fish. And I guess you wanted to go back and see if there were more fish. We managed to sneak off while Mum was distracted, and even though it was a long walk, we made it. Drawing out a shaky sigh, Nate raised his knees up to his chest, covering them with his arms. We got near the pond, and dark clouds started appearing. I swear they were pitch black, but Noel insisted we play hide and seek anyway. Started counting. Just like on that day, he covered his eyes with his hands, nodding along to each number. He softly spoke aloud. And when I opened my eyes again, it was snowing. Snowing? Snowing in July, he spat, his brows slowly coming down to furrow more and more. Just like a tragedy my parents told us about. Weird events caused by yokai. They were long gone by the time we were born, but nope. We just happened to be right in the center of one. His voice shook more with every word, his tone sounding more sour. I tried to find her. I did, but it was so cold and... Nate. Without thinking, Buck jumped in to pull Nate startlingly close for his own comfort. His breath hitched, speechless as he stared down at the trembling boy now leaning against his chest, intending to scream or holler. But he wanted this, the close proximity foreign, yet still welcomed. One he got used to right away. He'd had a whole night to relish in it. Now he didn't have to fear it when fully awake. You're alright. I had the picture. You don't have to say anything else. Truthfully, he felt terrible. The explanation helped put things into perspective, and all of a sudden Buck sensed suspicions of regret in him. Like always, he shoved it to the side in naive hope he'd forget it. I'm sure she'll be fine, damn it. He lowered his voice a bit. Fighting him, I mean, hell, she'd probably beat the shit out of me. Surprised she hasn't already. That managed to force a smile out of Nate. Even when it was the smallest of twitches, Buck was still glad to see it. But probably because she knows it'd piss me off. Probably because she knows it'd piss me off. Darn tootin', it's like you're all she cares about, he joked. Though he still believed part of it to be true. And the more he learned, and with the more time that passed to let him cool his head, it became abundantly clear why that was the case. Protecting someone you love is the least you can do for them. That feeling was sinking into Buck more and more each day. With each moment spent with this boy, the sweet, stupid boy, I worried deserved a lot more than Buck's aloof instability, something Noel seemed to provide just fine. Once this was all over, he'd tear down those walls, he promised himself, the ones that sturdily held him in solitude for so long. With all worries dispersed, he can smile just as much as Nate, and hopefully just as effortlessly. Like it does in the main game. I'll try being nice, alright? He suggested, accompanied by a sheepish grin that showed off a couple of missing teeth. How's that sound? Nate sniffed for the last time, giving his best nod. Sounds perfect. That eldritch atmosphere looming over Hazeltine House never left, no matter how much time had passed since the fire. Even Noel still felt slightly queasy from it, successfully sneaking in by climbing up a tree, trudging through the muddy grass faded in colour and life. The front door had been left ajar. Mumblings heard from inside it could certainly belong to her fellow spirits, a meeting of sorts taking shape inside. She slipped past the door, barely touching his fragile wood, listening in to the enemy. Need I remind you what this is for? The man. Yeah, this is Giovanni. Need I remind you what this is for? The man sounded a lot more agitated than usual, running his thick fingers along the bridge of his hooked nose, staring down at his disciples with a look of sheer disappointment. Do you hear them? Clamoring round inside the city hall, demanding answers. They're violent, those humans, hysterical pests, and of course such madness goes ignored. He sneered, clearly enjoying his own shallow boasts. What other reason would it be for the gods to turn a blind eye? They're embarrassed by their own creation, by a species destroying their beloved world they can no longer freely walk on. I met one of them, he continued, Noel's head perking up at his words, taken in the form of a deer, and as such frightened. They disappeared right before me. Too soon for us to converse, but I know what I saw. My eye does not deceive. He pointed to a singular working eye, the other lazily idle, surrounded by scorched skin and brittle hair. And don't you just wish for it? And don't you wish for just a taste of that? To his pleasure, the yokai frantically nodded, bringing out another prideful grin. You too can meet the divines. This is all they want. Power in their followers, dignity and ambition. Do you truly believe you'll get any by falling behind into mediocrity? Ha! Bambina, surely you must feel the same. All at once, the yokai turned their heads to the intruding girl. Noelle felt her stomach drop to her knees. Meanwhile, the other side of the forest stayed relatively quiet, as instructed, with the big and new moon barely visible to the human eye. Nate settled, and his phone's torch as a light source instead. It's quiet, Buck casually observed, as Pike refuted as an owl hooted somewhere in the trees above. His heart nearly jumped out of his chest. Merda. It's fine. It's just a bird. Yeah, I know, just... He paused for a moment, unsure how to word it without sounding stupid. Feels like anything could jump out, and with no one near it coming. It's giving me the heebie-jeebies. Suddenly Nate frowned. The house isn't that close, you know. Nah, I ain't meaning him. I mean, trust me, I've seen a lot of critters around these parts. Thinking of an example, his tone was far more dramatic than wanted. Like snakes. Snakes? Nah, just messing with ya. They wanted to punch him, still not convinced, made clear by the look on his face. The other quickly flipped his tongue around with on, tried to salvage the simulation. Well, there ain't snakes here, more so down the prairie. You really think I built a base near predators? Well, no, but if the quiet bothers you so much, then... Raising a brow, Buck had no idea what to expect as Nate pulled out his phone from his pocket. He sat increasingly perplexed, letting his upper body just appear on the screen. He showed a display of reds and greens for a moment. Several buttons slowed into rows until Nate tapped one to open it. Any suggestions? Buck thought he was talking to himself at first, signs confirming it was actually towards him. Do what? Wait, sorry. Nate squeaked, and just realized the Buck didn't have a clue what he was getting at. This is, well, it plays music for you. You search up whatever song or artist you want, and yeah. He realized by the latter half of his explanation his cheeks were burning, unsure whether it was some embarrassment or shyness or a mix of both. You like some bands, don't you? Seeing how you have a record player and all? Oh, okay, whatever, just take it. The phone nearly hit Buck's chest as Nate held it out, silently begging for the redhead to take it. Pleading it north so forth the open air to foot away. Buck felt akin to a deer in headlights. Carefully, he took the odd device and spent a long while staring at it, digging in all the virtual buttons, commanding him to do all sorts of things. He pressed one by the top, that was immediately landing across the bottom, squinting his eyes like an old-timer getting their first grasp of modern technology. He wasn't any different from that at all. So, what now? See all those letters? Just type out whatever it is you want to find. Nate watched intently, leaning back a little in hopes of making his stare seem a little less extreme. The longer he left Buck like that, the longer he appeared befuddled. Unless you want me to... Wait, hold your horses. At his call, Nate froze entirely, only allowing himself to dart quick glances to the screen every time Buck tapped away. It took him an absurd amount of time, nearly a whole minute, but how the hell do folks use this all the time? Nate couldn't keep his laughter anymore, hiccuping as he took the phone back. Yeah, it's weird, but... Oh, you got it, I think. With wide and delighted eyes, he stared down at the band that popped up. Quickly flicking the phone back to Buck just to confirm, to which he nodded back. The band was somewhat popular based on the monthly listers alone, and yet they still somehow slipped under Nate's radar entirely. He tried at best to shuffle the discography, eyeing Buck's facial expression after each song he skipped, looking out for his opinion. It consisted mainly of shaking heads. Nate didn't expect him to be so picky, finding humour in that fact and stifling his chuckles. The only verbal response Buck gave was a quick skip that, after what was apparently the most popular song, judging by the statistics. He sounded almost startled, nearly causing the boy to frown, but all that changed with the song followed right after. Hang on, that's... Buck held his hand out, signaling to stop, and instructed Nate allowed the song to keep going. The tempo was slow, unexpected for Buck's taste, or what Nate assumed his taste to be, but something about it seemed to lighten his mood right away. Yeah, I'll ask the record for that one. You're lucky to have it, even if it's only on some small doohickey I can't wrap my head round. Well, it's in their library, so... Nate's soul nearly jumped out of his mouth, Buck springing to his feet suddenly and trotting on the forest floor. Crank it up, all the way. I want to feel it in my bones. Okay. His voice came out a little more croaky than intended, taken back by the sheer contrast of Buck's usual demeanour that the song had apparently brought out. It wasn't quite loud enough to jitter around Buck's insides, the device probably couldn't handle such an attempt, but it'd do for now. It'd certainly scare any lurking animals, and with their distance from the town, it wouldn't be disturbing anyone's sleep. It could just be the two of them. Him and Nate. The taller boy's grin widening as the other set the phone down on the grass before joining to stand with him. They all had to work up the courage to do the same, swallowing her doubts before they became too much to handle. I just want to talk, she started, giving it all to make her voice sound as stable as possible. Giovanni twitched an eye. Go on. All the yokai he gathered were equally as curious, only having eyes for the intruder who cautiously approached their leader with a clenched fist, her other hand occupied with holding a book. I know you want control, and I know it'll be hard. For what? The gods? The gods that still haven't recognized you? Even after everything you did? He had to laugh. A humorless chuckle shivered down the girl's spine. You must be misinformed, dear. As I stated before, my eye does not deceive. One stood before me last night. Last night! Well, that was just one, she stammered. And how'd you know it was one of your precious deities and not just some regular yokai, Barely caring if it hit him or not, she tossed the book in his direction, the two watching it thud against Giovanni's leg before sliding to the ground. Read it. If enough of you wish for it, you can make a gateway to a whole new world. One full of yokai to force under your control. And all the deities you want as well. She ignored the way her fists got clammy, sweat dribbling down the side of her face with her heart beat so hard it might as well explode. To her relief, the book did seem to intrigue Giovanni, even just a little. It was enough for him to pick it up and take a look, flicking through the contents with a raised brow. But the more he read, the more titters and chuckles it etched out of him, the more her own smirk faded away. I'm sorry, Bambina, but you simply cannot understand. One hand slammed the book's pages together, the other aimed to strike. Where'd this come from? Nate sounded like his mother, unable to help his big smile and eyes glistening with adoration as he watched Buck's movements. He shrugged, feigning indifference. Can you blame him? It's a good song. And in time with its melody, he began to sway, as if to send Nate into a trance. Judging by his expression, it was unclear whether it was working or not. Wait, Nate's shoulders low with the realization of what's happening. Wait, I can't dance. Sure you can. You just gotta get into the rhythm. Look. Buck laughed at the other's helplessness, taking his shoulders and guiding him to waltz parallel to his own movements. And you ain't gonna let my old dance lessons from back in the day go to waste now, are you? Well, when you put it like that. Either way, Nate knew he was cornered, his arms still awkwardly sticking to his sides while Buck guided him. He swore he spotted his eye twitch solely because of that. So, do I just... Yeah, put your hands... Nate's fingertips barely grazed over Buck's sweater before he flinched away, his waist squaring at the slightest hint of contact. Still ticklish? Nate asked sweetly, batting his eyelashes to add to the sickening comment. In retaliation, a hefty sigh left Buck's lips while he suddenly grabbed Nate's waist instead, a bit disappointed by the empty reaction. Surely you're squirmy somewhere, he grumbled, listening Nate's giggle. I thought you were going to show me how to dance. I'm getting to that. Yeesh. Soon his attitude failed completely as Nate placed his hands on his shoulders instead, at the gentle weight that was anchoring him. Nate wasn't as hopeless as he played out to be. He caught into the rhythm quite fast, following Buck swaying with ease. The two of them each had their own share of cheeks dusted with a light red hue, feeling a little silly, given that their attire was far too casual for such a regal dance. and the constant fear of trotting on each other's feet loomed over their heads. Buck was convinced he was going to accidentally ram Nate into a tree while in this darkness, but nothing came to be. You're acting like you never danced for, he teased, sniggering under his breath where he could just about catch onto Nate's grumpy face in the minimal moonlight. That's because I haven't. No, Buck tilted his head, his cheek nearly accidentally knocking into Nate's hand. Not even for parties or something? You'd find me dead before seeing me at a party, you know that. Nate joked in an attempt to match Buck's taunts. The two secretly battled Zeke and Spot with a most obnoxious grin. Mum and Dad dance together sometimes. I think I remember trying to copy them when I was little. Yeah? How'd that turn out? With his face drooping on it, Nate tilted his head down. His mouth was barely audible. Not the plant over. Oh, idiota. Buck would clearly be lying if he said he didn't expect something like that. Clearly winning the war of obnoxious smiles, leading him to rub it into Nate's face. Well, it's improvement, surely. You're not dancing too terribly now. In that moment, Nate's eyes glistened, his head raising forever before he could drop from embarrassment. Really? Sure thing. Your foot works like a little baby deer, just learn how to walk. Now that's a line taken directly from the game, if you believe it. Oh, I love that little reference. Turns out he would drown after all. What? Completely baffled, a victim to Buck's uncontrollable laughter, Nate's face burned nothing short of scarlet. Buck, I'm joking. Quit your hollering. The shoes were having a dance at the road. Buck's boots constantly swerving and dodging to avoid Nate's trains from trotting all over them. The only act of revenge he could think of at that moment. There wasn't much else they could possibly think of. While Buck's laughs died down and the blood stopped rushing to Nate's cheeks, eye contact slowly became easier and easier. For the first time tonight, Nate didn't mind his solitude. Any other day, and he was perfectly fine by himself. Today, he'd be begging to stick with us for as long as this was all over. But there was something about Buck that bewitched him, that got through to him despite the walls and despite the terrible scenarios plaguing his mind. With him, he could believe that everything will be okay. Gut! The bandage wrapped around Noel's neck hardly worked well as a barrier, her whole body forced to the ground with his giant, forceful hands. This is my world, this world that you have all plagued. Giovanni spat, anticipating the icicle she'd attempt to stab into his shoulder, tossing her to the side before she reached certain success. These yokai, I am trying to save them, to put them on the right path, away from human delusions that you've already fallen for, to guarantee greatness, not cowardice. Shut up, she cried, after a swift, measly recovery, having crashed into the wall, pain erupting all over. Shut the fuck up! It is the truth, Noel, whether you like it or not. His words cut deep, booming in her eardrums so harshly they might explode. He just kept going, no matter how much she begged, kept insisting, threatening, refusing to hear reason. Hunched over, she felt she may throw up, her stomach still churning from the hit. Nate. She didn't think much more before heaving the name. Desperately reaching out a hand to the forest as if it had summoned him, stupidly pleading for it to work. Giovanni raised a brow. Over there, in the direction she was looking, hidden behind hundreds of trees, the boys stayed blissfully unaware. The music continued, inspiring them both by helping them up their shelves. Out of their shelves, I think that's meant to be shelves. Every step slightly more confident than the last. Nate didn't need to lock his gaze onto his feet anymore, trusting himself not to step on Buck's shoes, training himself to admire his face instead. Both pairs of shoulders relaxed, both pairs of hands secured their grip. Not too tight for discomfort, but not too loose to the point where they were barely holding each other. Everything felt right. Was right, as the long minutes passed by and the chorus repeated. It felt like an eternity to Nate, unsure if Buck felt it too, unsure what he felt or thought. But it wasn't a boring, shallow eternity that would surely drive most people insane. He was comfortable like this. He could stay here forever if given the chance. Buck wanted all that and more. They hadn't realized it, but sometime when they danced, their heads dipped closer together, almost to the point they could feel each other's shaky breaths. Buck had only noticed now, getting another timid chuckle out of him, the complete opposite of his snarky laughs from his teasers before. It got to the point he couldn't hear the lyrics anymore, only Nate's breath and nervous squeaks. He only had one thought, contemplating it, unsure how the other would feel. But at that point, in their solitude and promised freedom, he knew he had nothing to lose. He cleared his throat. Nate, The shorter boy hummed as Buck cut a sentence short, the warmth of his hand leaving Nate's wrist to cup his cheek, and said, Ah, ah, now of all times you want to scream for acting so idiotic. Maybe it was a sign that simple words weren't nearly enough. With that in mind, and nowhere else to go, Buck closed the gap between them. Close proximity. That was Giovanni's forte, and it flashed in Noel's mind right before he could pounce again. Nate's squeak died entirely before it could leave his throat, eyes fluttering shut for shorter than he thought would last, Buck's lips quickly pulling away. The icicle formed and ready in a predicted attack. Noel fought back, plunging and praying it hit. Fuck! Buck stammered out, unable to help the tears already forming all over again. I'm sorry, Nate. But Nate silenced him once more, this time with an embrace so tight it almost squeezed the air out of him. She felt something splatter onto her face, cold, oozing out from Giovanni's working eye, forcing him to coil back in agony as the icicle blinded him, shattering as he desperately pulled it out. I love you too, Nate whispered, unable to talk any louder without drawing his own tears out, smiling through it all. I love you so much. You have no idea. She won for a second, an unfortunately short second, celebrated too early through her smile as she shuffled away. He could still hear. He could still sense her that way. He was enough to grab her. Nate and Buck didn't have to say anything else, wrapped up in each other's embrace, slowly spinning as the song drew to a close. For Noel, the world spun as well. A surprised yelp slammed to the ground with her, fading to black, the same blue blood running down Giovanni's cheek, now pooling by her still face as well. And the boys had no idea. Eventually, Giovanni managed to push the agony to the side, finding time to thank Noel. She led him right to them, the limping man relying on that sole hint to find his way through the forest, and he wasn't alone. They found silence again, the couple taking the opportunity to do nothing but stare. Buck was still struggling to process what just happened, what he just did. An awkward first kiss. Nevertheless, they had time to work it out together. Or so he hoped, as a large figure stepped out from the trees. Buck's hands dropped to his sides completely, the first to spot it. Nate, still ignorant, followed his gaze, forcing him to turn around. There he stood, his own world blacked out, only knowing they were there from footsteps alone. And in his arms it was all Nate could look at. Noel, limply laying. Noah? Should he find the opportunity to again, Buck should learn to think before acting, crying out before rushing up to his father with raised fist. Quickly hoisting the girl onto his shoulder, Giovanni didn't panic at all. He listened closely, waiting for the right moment, delivering the perfect punch and striking him down, reserving the other shoulder for him. Buck! And Nate was next. It appeared, hearing his frantic scurry to save the others. With both hands full, all it took was a kick to the stomach. No matter what, they never learned. They never realized who was above them, as much as they tried to immobilize them, for he hears all, and will not hesitate to take something away should it be proved to be a liability. Nate rarely raised his head from the grass before he disappeared to who knows where, replaced with a dissipating cloud of smoke. He was left on his own, just the way he preferred. Everyone gone. 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 Well, that's one way to end a chapter. We're just doing this one chapter for today because, I mean, you can tell by the runtime. That is a massive chapter, and it's actually the longest chapter in terms of word count. I think the final chapter is a little bit less. Whereas this chapter 21, and chapter 22 are quite a bit shorter, thankfully. I might do the last three in one episode. It depends on how much time I have to record. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Looking forward to seeing how Nate is going to save the day. I mean, at this point, yeah, he's not. He's the main protagonist. This is sort of going to be, I would say, his moment to save the day because Buck's been kidnapped and Noel's been knocked out. And as you can see by the summary there, find them, Nate. It's what you do best. So yeah, Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.